issue what is at issue as far as the skyrocketing prices of fuel is concerned? Why are our neighbors not really adversely affected like we are here in the country? Some of the deals that we can see, the wheelie dealing that is happening also, and rent seeking is making the oil prices in the country go way through the roof. I just wanted to pick also this particular article that we have in the Daily Nation today, where Charles Onyango-Bo has addressed this there. He's asking that question, Mombasa Road, Uganda decides. I just read an excerpt of it as well. You can tease out some of the things that he's written there. But it raises the question on how the transparency of the government-to-government deal and the shares of Uganda, who own almost 40% shares in, of course, the oil trading here in the pipeline in the country to Uganda. And now that they seem to be having shortchanged, and that's why we are actually in a pickle right now. And these are some of the issues that we are just discussing here. We wanted to wind it up, and Bill, I'll come back to you. And I was raising the issue of we've always started ourselves as, we have a conducive working environment. This is the first port of call for investors to come in. They'll always talk about Kenya, but right now, looking even at the latest report by the KPMG, all the CEOs are pointing towards Tanzania. All the investors are pointing towards Tanzania. And the Tanzanian economy seems to be giving a projection of 6.3 growth that is bound to be growing. Ours is slightly going down, but I can see there's yet another information that it's bound to go by 5.3% in 2023. Do you think we've lost that luster because of a dead hand of bureaucracy, first of all, and corruption? And this particular deal with Uganda, is it salvageable, or we've lost it?
Well, Billo, tell us that story that you were telling me just now about in 2009, you were exporting oil to Rwanda.
2009?
Yeah, 2009.
Yeah.
What happened by 2018?
You see, this is why I'm very concerned about this, this announcement by Uganda on the entire, business community in the country. Because when this pipeline was put up, and Mombasa being the gateway, which we always marketing wherever we go, that we're the gateway to East Africa. Which is East Africa? We were supplying South Sudan. We are, all the shipment for South Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC. Everything was through Mombasa. Dar es Salaam port was not there until recently, the last 10 years only. So because of our inefficiencies and high cost environment, high cost, because all these taxes and all these levies and all these things make the cost of freight expensive. Actually, one of the challenges we've raised as businesses, from CAM and from ISPAC and for many years, has been the cost of freight. So what happened is we've lost a lot of that business of transit, goods, including petroleum, to Tanzania. So by 2018, we were not able to. So we used to sell all our oil to Rwanda and Burundi, and even all the way to DRC and Uganda and South through Kenya to Dar es Salaam to Kisumu, from Kisumu and Eldoret. By 2018, let me tell you, we were not able to export anything to Rwanda and DRC through Eldoret. We had to set up shop in Dar es Salaam and import through there and transit the product, through Rwanda to DRC there, because it was now cheaper and more efficient to do so. And so the only business that was left now was for South Sudan and Uganda side, which is the main business that is now left for our transit to that part of the world. And now if we lose the Ugandan transit business, let me tell you, it's going to impact significantly on the economy. So this is why I said some of these decisions really should be looked at in the wider context on the impact on the economy. We should not be looking at some of these things in isolation. And you're saying, they didn't, how could a EPRA, really a government official, say, you must have 5 stations in Kenya. And that's not the way to look at things. You must look at the bigger picture. So I think we are losing. And that question, Mombasa or Dar, let me tell you, 5 years, 10 years from today, those who will be sitting and talking about it will not be talking about that question. They'll be saying everything has moved to Dar. And the reason why all those KPMG reports saying they're moving to Dar is not just because of the transit things only, but the cost of doing business. The cost of doing business is not these boxes you tick for World Bank on your documentation and so forth. Is the cost of the actual cost of production, the cost of freight, taxation, energy, petroleum, power, all those things. When you look at all that, it is easy for you to set shop in Tanzania or Uganda or Ethiopia or Egypt.
So do you think in any way, because we're talking about the ports, and we've seen Suluhu also engaging DP World as well to running the affairs of their ports, is it part of the process of efficiency that maybe it has really sparked confidence on that particular arena as well, that here now we're grappling also to try and make sure that we're vacillating between concession and privatization, which we're not very clear what we're saying. We're not privatizing.
What's the difference between concessioning and privatization?
Yes,
concession is one of the ways of privatizing.
Yes,
it's just trying to.
But you're playing around with the semantics. You're saying no, it's not being privatized. This is just a concession for 30 good years.
Concession is once.
Yes.
We concessioned Kenya Railways to the citadel of Egypt. You remember what happened? They did asset stripping, and that was the end of the story. We concessioned our Kenya pipeline, Kenya oil refineries to that Indian company. What happened? The same thing. A bit of asset stripping. They made money on the crude and they disappeared. Nothing. They didn't put a shilling in it. So concession is worse because you're giving someone that asset and telling him use it for this number of years. It's worse. So I think it's that's and we discussed it here. If Kenya Ports Authority is working efficiently in terms of profitability, they are doing very well. You must tell Kenyans in terms of transparency, what exactly are you looking at when you are concessioning it? What are the issues? What benefits are we getting that we are not getting now from the use of the port? So, but just to simply say, we must give out because we can't run it. This is the concern is about the transparency. What exactly are we trying? What are the indicators that you're giving performance indicators to these guys to perform? What are they investing?
The KPIs.
I think those are the
efficiencies that you talk about here. Is all about what they're talking about leadership at that place.
Correct.
Getting efficiency in the port is a no-brainer from that point of view. The only reason you'd go to people like DP World or you go to the Singaporeans or whatever it is that they've got a large global network of organizations that can actually be enticed to come and use that facility. So they'll increase your volume because of the connections that they have, right? And that is the main reason why these guys like DP World and all these other guys from Singapore and from Hong Kong are being asked to sort of run ports or run ports around the world. Is because they're now creating a big logistics chain that they're able to bring business into you. So what will happen? They're just going to say, okay, fine, we've got an agreement with Musk, we've got an agreement with X, Y, and Z, and if you want to bring whatever it is, your cheapest place to bring it into is Dar es Salaam. Because there's efficiencies, there's everything else, we've got all that working there. So all of you come into Dar es Salaam, you can discharge, and then these guys will look and see how they will take it into the hinterland in Africa. Yeah. So that is the opportunity that we might lose. But we need as a country to be more efficient. Right? And that efficiency, as we were talking about, is about management, the leadership in that place, but also the overall costs of doing business in this country. Yeah.
But what is the place of accountability and corporate governance in this, Professor Gituro? Because yes, we cannot just be throwing our hands up in the air and say, we can't run this company because of inefficiencies, but yet the taxpayer is paying the CEOs there, the board of directors, you've got a whole, management and employees. We need to question ourselves. Then why are we paying this as taxpayers if we have CEOs who cannot really...
Governance was thrown out of
the... we have a whole CS who now also is overseeing the public service, right? And is putting them, we want to performance contracts. What are all these things that we normally throw up in the air?
Right.
And then we go and seek other companies to outsource their services.
We are in a stage where you are really taking a hyena to look after your sheep. That's where we are. And governance was thrown out of the window long ago. The port of Mombasa, actually in terms of operations, is more efficient than Dar es Salaam. In terms of operations, it is more efficient. So this idea that you want to privatize it because it's not efficient is not here nor there. I think it's a whole idea you're getting a hyena to look after your sheep than anything else. And it's the same thing. I like what Charles is saying. The back door is open. And you see in the video, you see that back door open. So to answer your question, governance and McPhee is very, very clear about this. Fourth King Joachim.
The King 4.
King 4.
King 4 in South Africa.
Yeah, King 4.
Very clear about governance, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
And if the port is not operating, I was sharing yesterday with my students, Kenya Power, in 6 months they were making profit. In 6 months they are making a loss. So one time you're making 1.3B, next time you're making 2.3B loss. It fundamentally tells us that's an organization which is just disaster. How do you move in 6 months, you're making profit, the 6 months you're down? And to me has all the issues, the meters we're talking about, the governance in it. So here's a question, it's not governance, nobody cares about this country. Same thing, planning here, harassment.
All right.
Who is bringing those 10? Who brought those 10 iPhones? It was the governor at the port, at the JKA. Then it was actually taken to his house after some talking or whatever. So it's also an issue, and that leadership we are talking about, it's innate. It has a whole thing of integrity. The link one knew.
The link on you. All right, so we're talking about integrity, talking about it.
Just to the question that you asked, Rafia, is look at the successful state corporations in this country. One, Safaricom. Came from a state corporation into something that is a powerhouse in the country.
Right.
And it's because, and this is what the government should be doing, bring in a proper partner to help you run that organization and bring it up. And if we applied that with the report that was done by on privatization, and we went through that and began to bring in the right kind of partners who had the technology, had the money, had whatever it is, to come in and help us turn around our state corporations within, and with this kind of deals, you can actually do them in such a way. Let me not talk about deals, because deals has got a wrong connotation in there, in the context of Kenya. But if you had a good a partnership, an agreement, like with private equity, they'll come in, they'll run for about 6 to 7 years, they'll make their money that they've injected, and then they leave you with an organization that is running well, if you have a good partner in that basis. So you can bring them in 5, 6, 7 years. They turn you around, they make their money, they go, and you have an efficient organization that is left running in the country. Right? But to just having these musical chairs of bringing in, one CEO, one chairman, one this, one the other, whatever it is, and so forth, our parastatals are just going to go all the way down. Right? And those were established to bring some semblance of cost competition within the environment in this country. That's what they're established for. And if they can't do that, then really they were saying just get rid of them, because they're a cost to the government for nothing.
And it's not that we don't have the talent, and McPhee can attest to this. Because at the end of the day, why do those systems work? Why do we have to go and look for people who can? We have the skills here. We have Kenyans who have run companies out there. So it's actually giving that space to run an institution as should be. But the moment you see there and you are deciding now, we'll put Patrick because Patrick voted for this party or that, then you are dealing for total disaster. There are cases, my friends are saying their CV has been given there, and they say, no, this was Azimio, or this was this. And that's what he did, is saying, and you get a bit concerned. When you go there, you see systems are working. And you're like, why can't we also work? Why can't our systems work?
Right.
And we have the brains. But the moment you mix that, you're saying that the interest, the highness is on the rules, you go nowhere.
So the most interesting thing is today, when the president will be addressing the bicameral house and by and large just addressing the nation, is the fact that we'll have the president also receiving the public service reports on values. And we're talking about values here that will be presented today. And this is a question we've been asking. These values that we normally talk about, values that are encoded there on how also the parastatals should be run, values on why issues of integrity will be key. You're talking about hyenas. Why would we be having hyenas and yet we have even the Mwongozo Code that stipulates how the state officers should actually be operating? Now we're thinking also on how the political parties can actually have the political parties can have CEOs of parastatals being having elective office in those parties as well, which is a complete violation of the Constitution and also the Political Parties Act. If you've looked at that particular development with UDA, that now they're opening the fora on the ground for the parastatal CEOs also to run for any elective seats within UDA. You got something to say about it?
He's saying the country has shareholders.
You know when Dr. McPhee and his prof were teaching, they always tell you the more things change, the more they remain the same in this country. You would, expect in this time, in this day and age, that we should be doing things differently. I mean, we have gone through all these things. And the Constitution is very clear, the Public Officers Ethics Act is very clear, the law is very clear, Chapter 6. It's clear that you cannot double up in politics and public service. But I think it's no brainer that the challenge we have in this country is about governance. And it's not because we have the most skilled professionals, competent people. You can see that in the private sector, how they perform. But the thing is, when you appoint people to institutions, on factors other than merit, you appoint them on the basis of some ethnic decision or political expediency, or he supported me, or he's this or that, or probably that person would be useful in terms of generating money for the political party in that institution. And then you can't expect this country, all those public institutions, to perform. And that is the challenge we have in this country. State corporations have been left there, 250 of them, for the last I don't know how many years, and decisions have been made. Policies have come up many times to privatize them, to reduce them, because they're a drain on the burden on the exchequer. But the reason is because they are useful to the executive. Yes, these are cash cows. I mean, you need money to run the country out. Not running officially, but to run your politics. That is where you get the money. And you give to professor, if the professor is the right guy who can generate money for the party from there. So I think today the president has an opportunity to tell Kenyans in terms of values, because everything is value driven. If you don't get the right people, really, you can't run this country. And we've seen it. We've seen it in the last 1 year. I'm sure he has seen it. And he has got the pulse, what the people think about this. If you're reading the papers, every day Kenyans have been pointing out, the people you are pointing here are not right. This person is tainted, this person has been implicated, this person doesn't have the capacity. These things are out in the media daily. So he has that opportunity to really today, not just to tell Kenyans what he thinks about how much progress they have made towards achieving the national values and goals as required by Chapter 10, but to actually change course. He has an opportunity to change course and say, guys, we can't go on this way. Yes, we must have
opportunities there.
I want to, let's break with the past. From today, this is what I'm going to do. If you don't do this, you are out. But we're not saying if he doesn't do that, then I think Kenyans will be stuck.
I didn't want to emphasize the point of values. There was somebody launching, I think it was by KTN. Professor, and it was Solomon's Economics.
Solomonic Economics.
Yeah, Solomonic Economics. And he went through, and one of the things he said, that wisdom of Solomon, it was engraved, it was in what we call integrity. And what is integrity and values? And it was very interesting that he gave this example of his dad when he was left in charge of the parish, and the dad didn't have money, he was mean in money. So the mother would go to the parish and ask your dad to give you money. And surely when he went there, he found the father counting money. And he said, I've been told by mom so that you can give us money. He said, son, this is not your money. is for the church. I think, no, the money is what's the difference? He said, son, let me tell you something. Don't take what is not yours. And he was saying, in terms of his book, that's one of the things he brought out in the book, the issue of even treating this country with integrity.
Yeah.
My brother is taxed to the core. That is taxpayers' money. Let's build the roads. Let's build the dams.
Okay. Let's hear from Dr. McPhee, because you've actually been, and I think in those forums with the Institute of Directors, talking about corporate governance. One time, I think also we had King himself here in this country in 2018. Right. And when they were launching, was it the King 5, the progression of the King 4?
Welcome for taking struggle.
But it seems all this is just a matter of, we have a whole state body, or the state corporation, what do you call it?
SCAC.
The SCAC. What is the role of SCAC in terms of streamlining all these parastatals so that they actually can abide? We know for SCAC is not really the corporate governance codes that we have, the Capital Markets Authority, but they have their own version, the Mwongozo Code. We've been talking about this Mwongozo Code. For me, but it is just Mwongozo Code, a name that even some of these parastatal chiefs, they have no sodding idea what this Mwongozo Code is all about.
And you're trained for 1 week when you become a board member.
You train for 1 week,
on
the Mwongozo. Yes, but it seems the Mwongozo, it's not a true north, it's maybe going south all the way. Where is the compass of a true Mwongozo Code? Where is it?
Well, you see, you know, we have a very, very fundamental problem, Debal, and that is that the level of integrity of every single Kenyan is wanting. That is our problem.
Every single Kenyan?
That's
inclusive
me.
Of us here.
You know, I tell my students, look to the left, look to the right.
Do you see a right person?
You've seen two thieves. And here I see the thief.
Are you seeing one here?
Here you see 3 thieves, inclusive of me 4.
Are you seeing one here?
I know you've never stolen money, but I tell you, when you didn't realize it. But anyway, I was, you know, I go back to, I was once in Rwanda, okay, and I was sitting with 2 gentlemen. We're having lunch there, and there's a very special reason why in Kigali or anywhere in Rwanda you have to have the food on the table, because they have problems of people poisoning one another. But anyway, that's another story. But these 2 men got up and they went over to serve themselves in this buffet counter, and they left their phones on the table. So I actually stood beside the table until they came back. And I said, look, Paul, Paul, why, you know, you leave your phones on the table. This can be stolen. They said, look, this is not Nairobi. This is not Nairobi. This is Kigali, okay? And I know that, you know, Wainaina is looking at me and saying, where? Marangini, where? So, but you see, we have a fundamental problem. Now, the only thing is, you see, there's a past student of Strathmore, his name is David Some. David Some became the VC of Moi University. He's now retired, but he saw that all the clans in the Kalenjin community were all fitina. You always got to remember in Kenya, the fitina factor, the FF, I call it, the fitina factor. So all these guys are quarreling amongst one another. So he got all of the leaders together, 12 of them. He said, first of all, look, I want you to have a council here. We will appoint one of you who's going to be the leader for 1 year. It'll then go round. And he got all of those people working together. Now, this is how Kenya used to work before we had this thing of parliamentary democracy imposed on us by the British people. You know, now why can't we go back to that? Why do we have to continue with this thing called democracy? The leader of the House of Congress was Nancy Pelosi. She now has lost her position because, you know, there were a greater number of Republicans than Democrats. So she then ceased to be the leader of the House. Now, she is worth $160 million. Why? Because she was doing insider trading when the government was going to approve that Microsoft would be the supplier to the army for their software, etc., etc. She would know that. She would buy the shares. They would go up, and she's a wealthy woman. She's worth $160 million. The last time I was in Washington, D.C., okay, was 1993. I haven't seen the place now, but apparently when you drive around Washington now, the houses of the members of parliament, and well, not the Congress and the Senate, they're spectacular mansions. Now, why? Well, because the industrial complex in the United States is paying these people, the members of the Senate and the members of the Congress. Here in Kenya, as a friend of mine, Edward Kingori, says, you know, in Kenya, we call this bribery. We call it corruption. In the United States, it's called lobbying. The banks lobby, the industrial complex lobbies. So these senators and members of the Congress, they're building luxury apartments around Washington, D.C. As I say, I'm believing people. I don't know. I haven't been there myself to see them. But we see this is the result of democracy. You've got to be democratic. And there was some members, you know, in that Deloitte webinar last night, some, you know, elected people in the European Union speaking rubbish. They don't know. So, you know, this is why you have to appoint Mohammed Badi as the governor of Nairobi. You appoint Sijui, someone as the governor of Kitui or Machakos. This thing of election, watch it. The problem is, Ruto has got his hands tied. Why? Because he's thinking about 2027. I have a friend who was working with Homa Bay County, doing incredible work there, 1 year before the election. Now, Bana, Sasa, forget about this thing of development. I need to get re-elected. And there's a man in one of the counties, let me not mention, he got a job, okay, in that county, and he was told by the governor, look, you're getting this job because you have to raise 100 million shillings for 2027. Where's that? Is this guy going to take that money out of his pocket?
Nope.
No, he's going to get it from the county.
From your tax.
So this thing of elections, watch ya. You can have elections in the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, okay? Or you can have elections amongst here. Who has made the greatest contribution this morning, okay? Maybe we'll vote for Patrick, okay? But when you have the country, you know, elections, winning an election depends on Mathari Valley, on Kibera, Korogosho slums. Maybe I should get elected for Korogosho slums because I'm the treasurer of a football club there, okay? So, but this is what democracy is. Democracy, we're talking about leadership, okay? Is Kagame, well, he is elected in
courts.
Rwanda, you know, elected. But, you know, the thing is that the Western countries are all saying, you've got to have democracy, democracy, democracy. Let us open our eyes and look at it. Do they have democracy in Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia, mind you, they've got a hell of a rich country, okay? But, you know, do they have well, you know, even Singapore, the democracy there, you know, maybe people understand what's going on. But I feel that here we're basing our system of government on a system which does not work.
But I think, Doc, the whole essence that I think Dibal asked was around values. If those values are in place, then it works.
Are the values in place?
That is the thing, and I think one of the things I'm expecting to hear today, and I agree with Bilo, is that we need to start making heads roll and get accountability back, get credibility back, and get us to believe that what is being done is good. Because otherwise, if we continue justifying the cost increases, we continue justifying this and continue justifying that,
blaming the past regimes.
The Kenyan isn't silly, isn't stupid. They'll listen.
Absolutely.
And they will say, okay, you have been in office for 1 year. Why are you blaming guys from the past? Make things change.
Correct.
That is your job right now. Yeah? The information that you have about the past should inform the changes that you need to make. Talk about those changes and put your neck on the block about them. And then going for and hold yourself accountable and say, I expect these changes I'm making to have an impact in 1 year or 2 years. And show us the path. A, B, C, D. That's what is going to happen. We have seen for 1 year what sort of, this is where we've done our stock taking. That's what this 1 year has given. The state of the nation really should be about the stock taking we've done, and this is what we've seen. And therefore, this is what we're going to do going forward. And hold me accountable that every 3 months, and I think His Excellency made that statement when he was going around the country campaigning, and when he also met us, the private sector and everybody else, he says, hold me accountable for everything I do and I say. Yeah? But now that things are happening, you're saying, no, it's not me, it was somebody else. Yeah? Accountability is about me making a promise and then delivering
and following through.
Right? Not me making a promise and then saying somebody else is the reason why I can't deliver on that promise. You need to have factored in all those things.
And you know, Patrick,
right?
One second. The reason why he got elected, and I have no doubt in my mind, because he promised Kenyan, and Kenyans are very good at listening. Hapa kuna good agenda, and they give him. Use the same thing, because we Kenyans are able and willing and very supportive if we see the right direction. To me, that's the thing. And it's interesting when the governors, they're talking, they reflect, they do what, and then they see how we go forward. That going forward must be seen in that respect the people have given you. And I think that's the biggest challenge he has. We corrected on this card because we what's the word? What you told us was good. And on that, we give you the mandate. Let's go forward. You know, there was this thing last shot. And one of the things they can start, I say, I'm going to really look like my motorcade, for example. You remember when he had the Masujad in Kericho? There was something which was in the social media, the vehicles which are on that road. It was amazing. There was even ambulances. Yeah, at the end of the day, you ask yourself, how much are we spending from the public or from those kind of in the cars? Does the president need 3 or 5 cars? You need maximum 3 cars. I talk of somebody who lives in our estate. That gentleman is very senior in this country. Perhaps very, very senior. He has only 3 cars.
Wow.
3.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday he doesn't have a car.
And in terms of the calling the shots this country, he can call the shots. He can call the shots.
All right. Okay, I wanted to, Bill, you wanted to say something? Because I was wondering, in what circumstance did Kibaki fire his ministers? Because I think that was a different dispensation of a constitution. So there was no state of a nation address. Now he will call out. Yeah.
Of course, Kibaki he fired 5 or so of the ministers because they were implicated in the Anglo-leasing scandal, and I think once the information came out and was splashed all over the media, then he had forced them to step aside, and that's how
even close friends,
even most of them being close friends of the
case itself also just dissipated. Nothing really came out of it. Anglo-leasing, the books have been closed.
Well, now that is a different matter. The criminal justice system now, that's a different matter, and those who know how to navigate our system.
And navigating our system is where I want to actually get to, because I was wondering, we have 116 million shillings corruption case. This is NHIF boss Kerich, who is acquitted, and it says the anti-corruption court acquitted the former National Health Insurance Fund boss Kerich in 116 million shillings alleged fraud case. Milimani Magistrate Esther Nyutu, in her judgment, observed that the state had not proved that Kerich, former NHIF officials, Marwa Chacha, David Kipruto, Echingi, and 2 Meridian Medical Centers Limited directors, Peter Wambugu and Diva Warioko, had conspired to defraud the insurer. they were let go. We can go back now to the presidential mercy. We had the former also Director General of Kemri. He was exonerated because of a mercy pardon under very mysterious circumstances. He's a free man. I was looking also at the People Daily that carried a story here that it should interest us, that how 105, if we may just speak it in full, was lost in Telkom buyback. And it says top National Treasury officials inflated forex exchange rates in the sale of Telkom Kenya Limited, increasing the amount by hundreds of millions. A report by MPs on the inquiry on the 100% buyback of Telkom by government reveals how Treasury mandarins made a kill. A simple move of reporting false exchange rates. According to the report currently before the National Assembly, the Director General Accounting Services and Standards of the National Treasury, Bernard Ndung'u, approved the issuance of Exchequer for payment of 6.1 billion shillings following the approval by the Cabinet Secretary and Comptroller of Budget. In line with approval processes, the head of accounting, Nemuel Motonya, prepared an Exchequer requisition memo on July 28, 2022, addressed to Ndung'u. And of course, as the Director General Accounting Services and Quality Assurance, Ndung'u facilitated the issuance of the Exchequer and payment of 6.1 billion shillings. This is an eye-popping figure. Add to 116 and the many amounts that people have been exonerated. If we accumulate all these monies that have been lost, we can actually fund our own budget.
You see, this country,
4 trillion shillings that is gagging. Yeah.
One other thing that I would I would encourage Dr. McPhee to also focus on, apart from the problems with democracy. Is the law that in this country we have two sets of laws, for the rich and for the poor.
Right.
If you are the rich, you'll never get convicted. This is what we're reading every day for the last 1 year. How many of the big people have been acquitted?
Talk of
All
NYS,
cases have been withdrawn. You know, it's a routine.
Yep.
But if you steal a chicken, the chances of you being acquitted is nil. And this is why Kenyans are making all this noise about, government wanting to tax everything when in fact the money is being misused. The billions that are being collected from them. And I have to read this because I've just got it now. You see this thing of the airport. This friend of mine, what happened to him yesterday?
Oh, he came in yesterday.
So he was searched and they found his search yielded nothing in the bags. So they searched his pocket and found a phone. He says the phone is 2 months old. And so they escorted him to the office. And through the Google, they found out how much is payable, and they told him to pay 124,254. And despite his explanation that this thing is all it contains, it has a SIM card, I've used it for more than 2 months, he was asked to pay. He was actually sent me his tax, the carrier. He paid.
Really?
The 124, duty, 48,000, excess duty, 24,000, VAT, 42,000, IDF, 4,800, RDL, 2,900, and so forth and so forth, adding to 124. You see, so you're chasing these small guys with these little things.
Yeah.
But the big
The
guys,
105 is lost. No one is accountable.
105, 2 billion.
and nothing will happen to them. They are known, the names of those people are known who did all those things, but they will not be paraded in court. The ones who have been paraded, including the two guys and others who have been messed up this economy for many years, they were running treasury, they get reappointed. So Karish will be reappointed tomorrow.
And we see the case of also the CS, the Kimorera and Arrow Dams as well.
Yeah.
Even that case is, you can see it's teetering on the edge. Soon you will be exonerated, or they are
and reappointed.
Yeah, and we can see that. Yeah, you can see
They'll get jobs.
They'll get jobs.
Yeah.
But I think I want to go back to almost 15 years ago, where we had this thing called GJ loss, when they were trying to reform the whole of the criminal justice system in the country, right? And part of what was supposed to happen then was, the idea was to bring in people who are experts in preparing cases and doing this and so forth, so that we are able to build a credible case that can actually pass muster in court, and that the chances of success would shift from 5% to 75%. Because currently the chance of success of any criminal case in Kenya is 5%, or even less. right? That was then. So this whole thing that is sort of getting to people's minds that, you know, the state mechanisms are being used, the state machinery is being used to harass people who are from the other side of politics and everything else, is because, yes, there is smoke, but we are not good enough at finding out the fire. So we go and respond to the smoke. And then when somebody comes in and they see, you know, and the smoke is being driven by somebody, right? And there may have been a legitimate reason why that whole thing was being done. But we do not have the capacity. And I'll say this unashamedly, we don't have the capacity to get to the fire. That's one. Secondly, it's not just not having the capacity, but there may be somebody who's putting water there so that you don't get to the fire. So they are stopping you from getting to that space and saying, no, we are going to put water on this one, let this fire die. Yeah, go and do something different. And so it is actually, I'm ashamed to be a Kenyan when I see these kind of things happening, that we have systems that are supposed to work, all these agencies that are supposed to ensure that people who have committed crimes get into, you know, get their just reward, or their just whatever you call it, and that we are able as a country to begin to bring values back. And I think when you talked about values, this whole essence of being able to effectively prosecute without interference and without public statements. Because when you see all these things happening, people start making statements left, right, and center. And in the US, you don't hear those things happening, apart from Trump. Yeah? And
apart from Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. And all those
Biden,
people.
and Hunter Biden.
And you hear all that, and therefore the influencing of the thinking of the judiciary and everything else is driven by those pronouncements. We should not do it. Right? If as process is going on, let us not, people should be prosecuted for making those statements.
Indeed.
Or they should be held to account for making those statements.
So you can see when we're talking about DPP is asking magistrate to recuse herself from Rotich's case. This is Senior Principal Magistrate Yunus Nyutu has declined to disqualify herself from hearing a graft case facing former CS. A Road and Kimorel case, prosecution fails to lead witnesses again. Prosecutor fails to interrogate 5 witnesses in the 63 billion shillings Arol and Kimorel dam. You can see what is really happening, and then we'll be told now this case there is no credible evidence, and they're just gaming the system. Just as you say, we have all these institutions, but you know how to tweak it to play
but it plays out.
Technicalities, and you exonerate it.
If you check, there was an article about 2 weeks ago, and it was looking at implementation of the law or justice in Africa. And they give the first 10 countries. You can rest assured we are not among those 10. And you can for sure know who was number 1 in Africa. I'm looking at you.
Which was number 1?
I'm looking at you. Just give the answer. Rwanda. So you see there's a relation between leadership and really respect of the law. If I go to that magistrate, and of course there's a whole chain, DPP, whatever, and the evidence. If I go there and I will not get justice, the country is lost. Same dogs. So there's a lot of with leadership, as Bill is pointing out, and the implementation of the law. Rwanda in Africa is number 1 in terms of carrying those 2. And you can just attribute it to the kind of leadership you have that. So we had even people who had billions in terms of tax evasion, didn't we? The first thing was, no, the case, there's no evidence, enough evidence.
Deban, let me tell you a little story.
Yes, I love stories.
You know, let's go to Venezuela. All right?
I'm not going.
You're not boarding.
You're not boarding.
In Venezuela, one of the things that people say is that, you know, Hernandez is the son of Hernando. Fernandez is the son of Fernando. Rodriguez is the son of Rodrigo.
Yeah.
And Chavez is the son of a bitch. Now, that man was elected the president of the country. Venezuela was taken from the richest country in South America to the poorest because of policies that he implemented. And also, of course, the people as well. There was no food in Caracas. In fact, I have a past student, okay, a lady who runs an NGO here in Kenya. She actually works in Caracas. They're not on SWIFT even. And they've now asked an American oil company to come back into the country to run their oil industry. This is a country with the largest oil reserves in the world, 300 billion barrels of oil. The next is Saudi Arabia with 266 billion barrels. So you can understand, but you see, I remember once I was talking to a friend of mine and he said, look, Jim, if you were elected, if you were appointed the president today, you would not be able to change Kenya. Why? You go down to the court system. I know a case where two young men were told, you give the judge 500,000 shillings each, you're going to be free. She realized they don't have the money, we'll reduce it to 300,000. They didn't have the money. Today they are in jail because they couldn't pay the judge. So now, can you expect the man at the top to have control over every level of government? Unless we change, we're going to make Kenya one of those prosperous countries in the world. I just hope and pray it doesn't happen, but it could end up as the poorest country in the world. When people are now going to start transporting oil from Dar es Salaam, okay, to Uganda, instead of putting it through Kenya, you know, when, you know, everything we look at, you know, people, we've got coffee sitting with our farmers in Muranga, it can get dollars, there's no processing. So KPCU, and I know a person who is a very highly placed person who used to be in government, said, look, I cannot trust KPCU. Those guys stole my money once, I'm not going to put my coffee through them again. So, but we, you know, I don't have children, so thank God I don't have to worry about, you know, what's going to happen. Maybe I'll live for 25 years, but anyway.
No, more than that.
But, you know, what's going to happen to our children in Kenya?
Yeah.
What is the country that we're going to live in? You know, because do people see the writing on the wall, or just are people blind? It worries me.
They're not blind. But the issue, I think, we've belabored this point, the issue is about governance. Let me tell you. The bottom line, unless that issue is addressed in this country, we will be talking about the same thing. For example, we were talking about the state corporations. I was a certified trainer in corporate governance. And when we developed that corporate governance guidelines for state corporations as early as 2000, the issue is not whether the governance principles are there or not. The issue is when you are appointed as a director or the chairman of a state corporation, you are made not to comply with those things by the appointing authority. That's where the challenge is. You know everything, you know the procedure, what needs to be done. You can't employ your CEO because it must be decided by the boss up there. You do an interview as a board, you have ranked the fellows, number 1, 2, 3. This is the best person who should be appointed. Down there, the list, they'll take the number 10 guy. Yeah. You know, it happens every day.
They did that with NSSF.
You say you want to take certain decisions regarding the activities of the state corporations, but decisions come from up there. You're told, no, please sell that thing to so and so, do this to that and that. You know, you are not. These things are there, the board and all those things in state corporation, but you don't have the latitude to practice corporate governance. It's different in those other countries. I was training the leaders of all the state corporations in Rwanda in 2002 in Lake Kivu, and I remember even attendance, they are asked, every one of you must attend, so that a whole week from the chairman and the permanent secretaries of the ministries and the chairman of the board and directors are there, a whole week no one can, here you can't even get a PS to go and attend a small meeting. You tell you, I have other commitments. So the commitment is different in those countries because of the leader. Up there, you are told if you don't do those, there is a punishment from the leader.
Well, that's the point.
That's where the buck stops. The buck stops with the leadership.
I remember
the political will.
Right. I remember we had
as we prepare our headline thoughts. Yeah, finally.
And I remember the corruption conference we had in 2019.
What was the per diem per day?
No. On that one, the corruption conference, the one thing that the then president did, he said, there will be no head of parastatal, permanent secretary, under secretary, board of directors missing from Bomas. Because I will be there myself. And this message was passed through whatever it is. I know those people saying, what are we to do in Bomas? That's what we're now being asked. What is it that you guys want us to do in Bomas? So just come. Because we were actually organizing that conference. And Bomas was full. Completely full. And the good thing was, at that time, we were allowed to prepare the citizens' demand to the president. And we actually went and read to each of the key people, starting with the president himself. This is the citizens' demand on corruption. And we gave it to him. Then we gave it to the Chief Justice. We gave it to the Speaker of the National Assembly, all these key people, about the citizens' demand. And work had been done both by the private sector and government and everybody together to put these things on the table.
Thank you.
Now, that was a good engagement where they actually brought everybody together. Unfortunately, it was our first and last one.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Well, as a winding up, I came across your presentation somewhere, Bill Okero, on the state of economy. Just to highlight as we're winding up quickly, you say the economy is on a drip and stable. The prognosis isn't rosy. The macroeconomic indicators are headed south. On taxes and the second one is global increases in prices of raw materials, including oil, disruption of food supply chain, and high inflation mitigation measures have exacerbated the situation. I'm just taking some pithy notes there. Taxes, levies, and charges. The Kenya Kwanza administration has placed tax collection as its priority, arguing that it will have more money to repay public debt and invest more in development. Cardinal rule during an economic decline is not to raise taxes. The ardent desire for trillions more in taxes will spur increased spending in government in anticipation of increased revenue. I'll move on to say our corporate tax rate of 30% and taxes on employee income are among the highest in Africa. Do we need to review some of these taxes downwards? Yes, especially those affecting food, fuel, industrial raw materials and inputs, including the construction industry. And I'll scroll down again to the cost of running government budget deficit and expenditure. The budget deficit has averaged 9% in the past decade, up from 4.2% in 2012. We must reduce it by committing to live within our means. Let's live our financial truth. Fidelity to budget appropriation approved by Parliament in Exchequer releases is critical, a matter that the control of budget should take seriously. And misplaced priorities in government spending is our Achilles heels. Why do we build houses when schools required over 10,000 classrooms for CVC? When HELP cannot finance university students, or when the education ministry cannot find money for school capitation. Right, I'll leave it from there. It goes on and on and on. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for the insight this morning. I think we'll pick it up next week as well. Just 10 seconds, my director can allow me to just give headline thoughts. 10 seconds, beginning with you.
You know, Deval, I wanted
seconds.
to end on a positive note, and I've been searching my mind to try to say something, which is going to uplift the day, and the rains are here. So,
yeah, I'll pick on the rains. I think it's good to follow the advices of professionals. Yes.
The professionals, when they say, yeah.
Yes, it's very good to have people, professionals, but it's good, even if there was an we'll have been given a warning. That's the best scenario. Type 2 error, I would say.
Bill Okero, there's no El Nino.
They were told there was no El Nino.
You are saying.
I was asking myself, who should have actually addressed that particular issue, saying there's no El Nino. Yeah.
But we are hoping today that the president will announce measures that will give Kenyans hope that his government will change direction. I saw the same editorial on the Standard on that we can't go on the way we are going on. We must change course, and we expect him to make something.
Right, thank you.
I think I go with Bilo. Kenyans are in a state of despair. We need a guiding light that will give hope, and in fact positive hope, to the country.
Or that chemical.
Amen. Or that chemical of air.
Or that chemical of air.
To put it on a straight line. Thank you so much for your valued company. I'll leave you with this editorial cartoon here, where it's all about El Nino as well. Remember, also the World Meteorological Department has given the indication that we might be having this El Nino rays until next year in April. And Gado had drawn this. If my director may just speak it as we're winding up. We wish to warn everybody that El Nino is coming. And you can see the Met Department with a bullhorn there. This is the Met Department, right? Yeah, so this is where the floods have reached. Even the Met Department themselves, they've been affected by these floods as well. As you can see it here, and you can see the gentleman with the bullhorn on top there. All right, sometimes we speak so soon. All right, thank you for your valued company. Don't go away.